Good evening, everyone. It is 7:01 and the Board of School Directors Legislative Meeting is called to order. Please join me now in the Pledge of Allegiance. We have our flag. Ms. Evans, are we able to get our flag?
I don't have it.
Okay, please join me now in the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag
flag
of the United States
of
America and
and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under
under
God,
God, indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty and justice for
for
all.
all. Thank you. All right, Ms. Evans, can we have the roll call, please?
Yes, Ms. Frantic,
Present.
Mr. Henderson,
Present.
Ms. Ionity,
Present.
Dr. Levinowitz,
Present.
Mr. Rapsky,
Present.
Ms. Shapiro,
Present.
Mr. Sirota,
Present.
Mr. Wallach,
Present.
Dr. Davis.
Present.
Thank you, all present.
Thank you. Once again, I want to welcome everyone to our meeting this evening. Just before I turn it over to Mr. Kaplan, I just wanted to mention that the Pennsylvania School Board Association held its spring virtual advocacy day today. And it was a really wonderful time in order for school board members from across the state of Pennsylvania to discuss some of the critical issues that public schools are facing with our legislators. So I wanted to personally thank Dr. Levinowitz, who serves as the president of the PSBA Governing Board, for his leadership in helping to organize the day and all the planning that goes into the advocacy that we need to do as school board members to make sure that we're looking out for the best interests of our public schools. And I also want to thank those that those that couldn't really participate today because of other obligations, but certainly reach out to legislators when they can and have those important conversations so that we are always looking out for the best interests of the students that we serve. So again, thank you, everyone. Welcome. And at this point, we're going to turn it over to Mr. Kaplan for the Student Government Association report.
Thank you so much, Dr. Davis. As spring break looms right around the corner, activities across the school continue through this third quarter with great energy. For example, Mini-Thon this past weekend hosted a car wash where we were able to earn over $1,400 to go towards the 4 Diamonds Fund in order to fight against pediatric cancer. Tomorrow, March 23rd, there will be a Dine and Donate at McGurk's, and our second virtual bingo night of the year will be on March 24th, this Thursday. We would appreciate all the support as we get ready for our in-person Mini-Thon Dance Marathon on April 30th. As for the Performing Arts Center, it has recently been booming just like old times. The week of March 7th and the week of March 14th, Songs for New World, the spring musical, filmed their production and hope to release it on April 8th, 9th, and 10th. Tickets are available to stream by going to the link on the Upper Dublin Theater's social media pages. The Student Government Association has also begun preparing for students to return to schools and are excited to energize them when they arrive. We are currently in the midst of planning a Spirit Week where we hope to raise money and collect cans for the local Peace and Shake organization. We hope to bring a sense of unity back to the school. Lastly, seniors are thrilled to hear that a series of special events such as prom, graduation, and the annual class trip to Disney will be happening this year. Thank you all for listening and have an excellent night. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. It's always one of the most exciting parts of the agenda to hear all the things that are really happening at the high school. So we really do appreciate you, organizing all the information and sharing it with us. And we're as excited as you are to hear about all the things that will be happening for our seniors as this year progresses. So thanks again.
It's always a pleasure to share.
Dr. Yanni, can you give us your superintendent's report?
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Davis. And Daniel, again, thank you for your report. And Daniel was hard at work at the car wash on Saturday. So thank you for giving of your time over the weekend for a great cause, Daniel. It's much appreciated. Tonight, we're asking the board to consider the appointment of Mrs. Charlotte Seiberling as our new Upper Dublin High School Supervisor of Special Education. Char is currently a Director of Special Education in the School District of Philadelphia, where she is responsible for the supervision and evaluation of special education staff and programming across numerous schools. Prior to her current role, Mrs. Seiberling served the Stamford School District in Connecticut, where she was in charge of IEP compliance after serving as a special education and mathematics teacher. Char will assume the position previously held by Mr. Al Oberman, who returned to the Bristol Township School District as their new Director of Pupil Services and Special Education. Tonight, the board will take action to accept 3 retirements. Collectively, this group has served the Upper Dublin School District and our students very well. Each of them will be missed. Patty Calistri. Patty serves as one of our occupational therapists, helping students unlock their potential in a myriad of ways as they overcome challenges to realize success in school. Mr. John Rogers, high school art teacher, has inspired students to express themselves and the world around them through art for many years at Upper Dublin High School, and will miss the creations that he and his students create each year. And last but certainly not least, Mrs. Cindy Shapiro. Cindy has proudly served the Jarretown Elementary School community for several years, and most recently, she's taken on the challenge of being one of our Cardinal Academy teachers, even switching grade levels throughout the year to support students. All of our retirees will be missed, but we are grateful for the many years of dedicated service they provided to our students, our district, and to our community. April 5th, 2021 will be the first day that we will offer 5 days a week of in-person learning for students at both Sandy Run Middle School and Upper Dublin High School. As we communicated in last week's Touch Base Tuesday and the follow-up Friday, we are focused on providing at least 3 foot distance between individuals during the school day and at least 6 feet when students are at lunch. There has been some concern expressed by families about returning to school immediately following spring break. We ask all families to be mindful of their students' health when returning to school. And please remember that the RUVNA health screening app will remain in place for the rest of the year. We will continue to maintain our Upper Dublin School District COVID-19 dashboard and COVID-19 on-campus case tracker for transparency throughout the duration of the pandemic. We will continue collaborating with the Montgomery County Office of Public Health on every case of COVID-19 that we encounter. The district will continue monitoring COVID-19 data and conditions. If warranted, the district may need to pivot back to a hybrid schedule. If the leadership team makes this decision, we will communicate this information as timely as possible. In-person cafeteria lunch service for both Sandy Run and Upper Dublin High School will resume on April 5th. And just as a reminder, this year all meals are provided at no cost to students or families. Our food service team is also continuing to provide meal bundles for all students, which are available for curbside pickup. Curbside distribution is every Wednesday and will include a distribution day on March 31st, which falls on the Wednesday of our spring break. Mr. Schultz, our high school principal, and Mr. Ortiz, our middle school principal, will be sharing much more information with their respective school communities in their weekly communications this week. This is just a reminder that kindergarten and new student registration can be completed online. Registration takes about 30 minutes, and we're very excited to welcome our new students across grade levels, but in particular, our new kindergarten students for next year. The Upper Dublin Education Foundation is sponsoring an event in collaboration with Upper Dublin Township called UD Mission Possible. If you're looking for something fun and safe to do with friends and family, you can register for Upper Dublin Mission Possible, a fundraising event benefiting Upper Dublin schools and local charities. There are cash prizes, and it's really a scavenger hunt. It's family focused, it's fun for all ages, and there'll be information not only on the Upper Dublin Education Foundation website, but also on our district website. Our leadership team will hold 2 virtual town halls this spring. The first will focus on teaching and learning, and it will be held on Wednesday, April 14th at 6 p.m. The second event will focus on the budget, and it will be held on Tuesday, May 4th at 6 p.m. Additional details and registration information will be communicated in the coming weeks via our Touch Base Tuesday communications. Just a reminder that schools are closed Monday, the 29th of March through Friday, April 2nd. We ask everyone to be mindful of safety precautions over spring break. Continued implementation of safety precautions will help us keep our schools open. Enjoy the break, but please don't let your collective guards down as we work to suppress COVID-19 in our community. Dr. Davis, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Yanni. That was a very comprehensive report with a great deal of information included. And I'm sure particularly of interest was the fact that our students will be returning on April 5th for in-person instruction. I know many families are very excited, and those that are that want to continue to have their students in the Cardinal Academy are very appreciative of that opportunity as well. I don't know if any other board members want to make any comments at this time before I open it up to the community. Don't see any hands. All right, at this time, we are going to have our first community input session. Again, this is for action items and presentations included on this agenda only. I'm going to remind everyone to please state your name and the location in the district where you reside before addressing the board. And there is a 4-minute time period allowed for comments. Please be aware that your comments are being recorded. Please raise your virtual hand and Ms. Evans will invite you to speak and serve as the timekeeper. Ms. Evans?
I don't see any virtual hands at this time.
Okay.
Ms. Burns, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Brooke. I'd just like to say how, Darlene, as well, that I'm so excited for this 5-day return. I think we all should take a minute and just say hallelujah. Woo! It's been a long time. So I think that's wonderful, and we should all be very happy about that. I did want to take a minute, and I don't know if we can talk about, there was a little confusion in the community in regards to how we got to here as in regards to voting and not voting, what we have to vote for, what we don't have to vote for, what the board has to vote for, what they don't have to vote for. So I was hoping, I don't know if Mr. Diazio, our solicitor, is on the call, but I was hoping that we could get some clarification as I'm unsure the process. We started out with a vote for a health and safety plan and a vote for return to 5-day back in July, which we did, and we realized we had to do that due to the pandemic. But then we moved to another vote for October to send elementary back, which I get. But then we've now moved to, now we're in March, and we don't have to vote now to return for the health and safety plan, and we don't have to vote for the return to 5-day. And there's just some confusion out there as to why that is and how we got from the process in July, October, and now to March. So my questions, I guess, if somebody could, I'm hoping our solicitor could help us with that, because it appears that he was the one that made the final decision that you do not have to vote on the healthy safety plan, and you do not have to, the board does not have to vote to go back. So I would hope we could just sort of clarify, what's the process for voting? Is there a policy or process in place? Has the health and safety plan ever changed since July? Because it sounds to me like it actually has not, and I could be wrong, so please correct me. And if in fact there was no change in the health and safety plan, could that have meant that we actually could have gone back even earlier than April 5th? Like 10 plus districts in Montgomery County are going back. So I think there's some confusion in the community, and I really would love if somebody could just help us out to understand this voting or not voting process. Just because who knows if we have to go through this again? Who knows if we have another pandemic or we have something else that's going to take us to this position again? We want to make sure that we understand as a community what's going to happen when. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Ms. Shimko.
Hi, Margaret Shimko from Drescher. I also want to second what Lisa said. Very, very happy that we are going back, and that I can definitely tell my children, from what I understand, and you can clarify this, that we are going back full-time April 5th. Because I do not want for a third time to tell them that we are going back and then it to be taken away. The other thing I have a question about is in the, it was either the touch base Tuesday or the follow-up Friday. There was a comment about blended learning, and essentially it's here to stay, and I understand that now. What I want to know is, what is the plan going forward? And if for next year we are going to be continuing with Cardinal Academy, is there a plan to have specific teachers for Cardinal Academy and specific teachers for the children that are in person going forward, so that the teachers can teach the children in person and focus on them, rather than trying to balance two things of teaching to children at home and children in person? Because I do feel it puts the children who are in person, well, I feel it puts both at a disadvantage, and I think it's a difficult spot to put the teachers in. And I want to know if there is a plan going forward for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't see any more raised hands.
Okay, then we'll close community input, and I will turn it over to Dr. Yanni or Mr. Diazio to address the why no vote, and then we can also deal with the blended learning question.
I can take the blended learning question first. So what's happening right now is something called, inside blended learning is called concurrent teaching. And so teachers are teaching the kids that are in the classroom and kids that are at home, at the secondary level. At the elementary level, we have dedicated Cardinal Academy teachers and dedicated in-person instruction teachers. Our goal for next year is not to have widespread concurrent teaching happening. There may be some instances where that needs to happen when classes or courses are only offered once in a schedule, but our goal is not to have widespread concurrent teaching. That will be discussed at length at our town hall. It's one of the reasons we're doing the town hall in April, to give families an idea of where we're going in terms of blended learning moving forward, because blended learning is not predicated on concurrent teaching. Concurrent teaching was something that we needed to do this year because of the pandemic, but as we move forward, we'll be doing business a little bit differently. Mr. Diazio, would you like to take the question about the?
Sure, I can speak to that question a little bit. And just so that the board and the community knows, I certainly understand it's a good question about voting, and it's a question that comes up frequently with respect to these health and safety plans. And one of the reasons why you may see different school districts doing different things at different times with voting is because certainly, as you know, as it's been said many times, we're in a pandemic, and the times are different. Whether or not a health and safety plan requires board approval is not something that's explicitly spelled out in the school code. And the school code is generally the legal authority that binds the school district. So when you look at things that are listed in the school code, there's some categories of items that certainly require a board vote. And then there's certain things that don't require a board vote. Certainly when the school code was written many years ago, a health and safety plan wasn't something that was contemplated when that law was written. Now, what was clear when the law was passed requiring health and safety plans was that the original health and safety plans certainly needed school board approval at a public meeting. So last summer, leading into the current school year, that document needed to be board approved and then submitted to the Department of Education. Now, since then, as the plans have changed, certainly there's been a question about, do the revisions need to be board approved? Can the board delegate that authority to administration? Does it need to be presented publicly? And the standard that we've sort of used here is, if there's going to be substantive changes, we try to make sure that those get presented to the board. To Ms. Burns, to your point, when we looked at the revisions that were being made to this plan, they weren't very substantive in nature. A lot of the changes to the plan were really just to reflect the wording that's being used in current guidance. So many months ago, or several months ago for that matter, we were used to talking about the different phases being green, red, and yellow. That terminology is somewhat outdated and not really being used anymore. So we updated the plan to reflect the new words and terminology that are being used. So that's the reason why we came to the conclusion that a board vote wasn't necessarily needed. Health and safety plans are public records. Certainly, they're submitted to the Department of Education. They're available through the Department of Education, and they would also be available, through the district. So at any point in time, if there's any community member that's questioning what's in the school district's health and safety plan, that's available at any time. I hope that answered the question.
I would just add on top of this, for clarity's sake, when we say we're returning to 5 days a week, we're returning to a true 5 days a week. There are some districts that are doing async days, asynchronous days. There are districts that are doing shortened days. We are doing 5 full days. There's no planned asynchronous day. So it is a true 5-day return.
Darlene, you're muted.
Thank you so much for answering those questions for the community. We'll move on now to
Dr. Davis, I see there are some hands up.
Oh, see, I'm not seeing hands. Brooke, if you see the hands, can you call on them?
I see Mr. Sirota and Mrs. Shapiro.
Okay, in that order.
All right, thank you. I just wanted to add to what Dr. Yanni and Mr. Diazio said, and both of you, please correct me if I'm wrong. But in addition to being driven by the health and safety plan, we're very much also driven by the guidance and conditions in the community in terms of the current pandemic state. So people ask about hard, a real clear future prognostication of what's going to happen. It's dependent on something that we have to react to. So, in terms of making a promise that we're going to open on a particular date, is something we can't do because the conditions on the ground are really one of the major factors in determining that. So while certainly it's an intent right now to open on April 5th, that's not a hard and fast guarantee, right?
If conditions would change and where we see spikes, we would come back and we would say, we may not be able to open on that date. We worked specifically with the Office of Public Health and Dr. Rubin from CHOP, who consistently told us over the last couple of weeks that early to mid-April would be the quote unquote sweet spot to open. And with April 5th being the natural break, that's why we chose and recommended April 5th.
And there was also a comment about how this might be handled in a future pandemic. And while certainly there's been a lot of lessons learned in this one, I wouldn't expect to be able to use this as a necessarily a direct roadmap for the next one. I mean, there's lessons that could be applied, but there's no reason to think it's going to go exactly the same way. So I just want to caution against real clear rules around handling a pandemic. It just they don't work that way. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Sirota. And again, I think it's important to just clarify that, our, executive team under the leadership of our superintendent have worked with the, state, local, federal, officials for guidance. And I think whatever the pandemic would be that we might encounter in the future, they would continue to do the same. And so as Mr. Sirota is saying, every situation, is different, and we would, work with the experts and make decisions accordingly. Ms. Shapiro.
Yeah, I want to follow up on what Mr. Sirota said. I mean, I think it's very clear that the intent is to open schools, and we hope to continue to keep the schools open. But if the situation with the pandemic does change and does require a different model, then I think that is something that people may have to expect. I mean, the safety of the students and the staff is the priority. And while I think the signs are looking encouraging, we as a community have to really work at that and continue to observe all the good guidance in terms of masking, social distancing, hand washing, and all that. And only then can we continue to keep the schools open and or have them open in the way that we anticipate at this point.
Thank you, Ms. Shapiro. Ms. Inetti.
Hiya. My question is for Ed. So would it be correct to say that as long as the decisions made by the administration fit within the parameters of the July health and safety plan, we don't have to vote?
Yes, that's correct.
Right. And so in other districts, if their original health and safety plan was very restrictive, they would need to vote.
Right, that's correct. And even though board votes are not required, sometimes for any number of reasons, a school district, whether it be their administration or the board, will ask to vote on something, even if a vote may not be required. So just because you're seeing a board vote on something doesn't necessarily mean that they had a very restrictive health and safety plan, and that's why they need to vote. It could also be a local preference to vote. But in terms of your statement about what would require a vote and what would not require a vote, I believe that is a correct statement that you made.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else on the board? Not seeing any hands. All right. Well, thank you. At this point, I think we can move on to Mr. Leckman for any announcements or communications.
Thank you. There are none this evening.
All right, so I really didn't need to call on you. So, all right. We have minutes from our February 22nd legislative meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
That was Mr. Sirota. Is there a second?
I
Second.
second.
I'll let Mr. Henderson take that one. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? All right, the minutes are approved. Also, we have as an information item, minutes from our February committee minutes. We had a February 3rd education meeting along with a policy meeting that evening. And on February 17th, we had a finance committee meeting, and those minutes were approved by the committee. So that is an information item only. Ms. Shapiro, if you can present the Education Committee and curriculum recommendations.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Davis. We have 3 items. The A item, enrollment report, is for information only. Then item B, the Lego brick purchase that was discussed during our meeting. And the conferences, there are some new items on there, and I wonder if we could get a little bit more information on that.
Yes, Mrs. Shapiro, our executive leadership team has deemed that they're all appropriate. One of them is, one of those conferences is for one of our school nurses to get updates on health protocols. There are a number of staff attending a conference to assist a student with an IEP, and then there is an administrator attending a conference, but we've deemed all of those appropriate for approval.
Excellent. So then I think I'd like to move both items B and C for approval. So is there a
second?
Second.
All right, Dr. Levinowitz. All those in favor, before I ask for a vote, are there any questions on those, on that motion?
Yeah,
Okay, seeing-
yes, I have a question. Are they all virtual, these conferences?
I believe so, Mr. Ropsky. I will check on that and get back to you.
Yeah, I do believe they are. I just off the top of my head, I don't remember seeing need for substitutes or anything like that. So I do believe they're all virtual. Okay, so we're ready for the cool vote. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Next, we have our Finance Committee recommendations. Mr. Sirota.
Thank you. We have 11 items on the agenda from the Finance Committee. 10 of them were discussed in detail last week at the Finance Committee. The other one is our regular monthly payments. So I would like to move all 11.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Henderson, second. Are there any questions or comments on the motion? Seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? All right, the motion carries. All right. Okay, moving right along. We have our personnel report and recommendations. Dr. Levinowitz.
Yes, I'd like to make the motion to approve the personnel report as presented tonight.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Franzik? All right, thank you. Any questions on the motion?
I just want to take a moment again to congratulate Ms. Cyberling for a new position. And I need to just say a few things about Mr. Rogers. I've known Mr. Rogers for many, many years. I've always referred to his classroom as Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. And I know Mr. Rogers will be greatly missed. And I just wanted to congratulate him since I did get to know him over the many years that I've served on the board.
Right, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Levinowitz. Ms. Francis, the Policy Committee recommendations.
Yes, thank you. We have items A, B, and C this evening. Our first item, the second reading and adoption. We've got 3 items for consideration. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the second reading and adopt policies 907 visitors to school, 907.1 classroom observations, 910 community engagement, all of which were discussed in committee.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Mr. Sirota. Are there any comments or questions on that motion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries. You
All
can
right. Thank you. Items B and C. So first reading, item B, and item C will take together. First is the affirmation of first readings for the following policies: 908, relations with parents and guardians; 909, municipal relations; 912, relations with educational institutions; and 914, relations with the intermediate unit. And those were all, as I said of the earlier, discussed in committee. And then item C, which is first reading repeal of the 5 items, 518, 432, 532, 440, and 540, all of which were subsumed into other policies that were revised.
All right. So he's made the motion. Who was that, Mr. Sirota?
Yes, it was.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Sirota provided a second. Are there any questions or comments on the motion?
I'd just like to comment on these first reading motions, all about relationships with other related parties. And it was a great opportunity to discuss that at the Finance Committee to affirm the importance of those relationships and structure them to best benefit the community.
Yes, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there
Aye.
any opposed? All right, the motion carries.
Thank you.
Other business, Mr. Wallach.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. We have one item of other business this evening. As many people know, the school district participates with the MCIU, the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit, in a variety of different ways. And one of the things that entitles us to do is to have a member of our board of directors be a member of the board of directors of the MCIU. And the term for the current member will be expiring. And so we need to nominate a school board member to be a member of the MCIU board of directors with term effective July 1, 2021. And I would like to make a motion to nominate Dr. Darlene Davis for that position.
I will ask for a second on that motion.
Second.
Okay, Ms. Franzik. And are there any questions or comments? I think I'll make a comment since I'm being nominated. I am currently in fulfilling that responsibility on the board for the MCIU, and I gladly look forward to continuing to serve in that capacity. So, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Also included in the agenda tonight, we have our liaison committee reports. They are included for information only. And Mr. Diazio, do you have a solicitor's report?
Yes, thank you. I have the Sunshine Act announcement for this evening. And the announcement would be that the board met in executive session this evening, March 22nd, prior to tonight's legislative board meeting from 6 to 7. And the topics of the executive session were matters of personnel that were on the agenda this evening, matters relating to staffing for the upcoming school year, and one matter involving special education litigation. That concludes my report. All of those items are proper topics of executive session. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Diazio. So at this point, we're up to our second community input session for the evening. I will ask once again for you to state your name and where you live in our district. Ms. Evans will again be our timekeeper and invite you to speak. So please raise your virtual hand and she will call on you.
Thank you, Ms. Vitella.
Hi, Jenny Vitella, Ambler. I have another question, again, about follow-up with the health and safety plan. In July, there were two things voted on. The first thing was the health and safety plan. And the second thing was a vote to go all virtual. So since then, we've spoken about the health and safety plan, the health and safety plan, the health and safety plan. But what vote, shouldn't a vote be needed to override the July vote to keep kids all virtual? That's where I think there's some confusion here. There was two votes in July. There was the health and safety plan, and then there was the vote with everybody voting to have everybody go to virtual. So I guess we're confused why that doesn't need to be turned over in order to go back 5 days. That's that question. The other thing is just more of a comment. In a year with high suicide rates, depression, and kids locked in their rooms staring at screens, I just have to say, thank God for sports. The one thing we didn't mention is that sports have been going all along for Upper Dublin High School and Sandy Run Middle School fall, and we've just wrapped up the winter season and we're entering into our spring season, and there has been very few issues in terms of COVID, and they have had some very, very successful seasons, and I am so thrilled that we were able to have these sports. That has been an amazing outlet for these children. And I just want to say our Upper Dublin High School, little shout out to Upper Dublin High School boys and girls basketball teams went on to district playoff games. I think they both lost in the second round. And I know our boys swim team won their Suburban 1 and moved on to districts and were very successful at that meet. The girls, even more successful, they won Suburban 1. They did very well at districts and even had qualifiers for states. And this weekend, Upper Dublin High School girls 200 medley relay is the state champions for swimming. In addition, Megan DiMartile is the state champion in the 100 backstroke for the third year in a row. She is a junior. She won it as a freshman, a sophomore, and a junior. And kudos and congratulations to all these athletes. And thank God for sports. Thanks.
Thank you.
I do not see any other hands.
All right. Well, thank you. And we will close community input at this time. Are there any additional comments from the board or the superintendent?
In tomorrow's Touch Base Tuesday, there will be a summary of all of the non-substantive changes from the health and safety plan. And we're also working on a newsletter that will be out by the end of the week that will highlight many of the athletic achievements that students, that our student athletes just attained.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Sirota.
Just wanted to try to, or at least encourage somebody to try to address the question about why we didn't need to vote again to undo the July vote. I think the answer is because the July vote had an end date. It was November 3rd, 6th, something, whatever that beginning of November, beginning of second quarter. At that vote, so there's nothing to undo, but I'd appreciate clarification or confirmation on that.
So the vote in July was that Friday, November 6th would be ultimately the last day of virtual instruction because of we brought kids back on the 9th of November. In October, the board approved a revision of the plan in the instructional time survey that allowed for in-person learning. And at that time, we put our blended learning plan as an appendix in that document.
Ms. Franzik.
In terms of July, my understanding, and please confirm, I think this might help. We voted both to affirm the health and safety plan, and the second vote was not to go virtual, but was to postpone the implementation of the health and safety plan until we felt at such time the conditions were met that we could do it. So I think that might be the crux of the confusion, that we had to do that. And that's why we had the second vote in October, so that we could affirm that, yes, we believe that conditions had met, we had everything in place, that we could bring the students back in November. Is that the correct recollection?
The vote in October allowed us to do in-person instruction.
Correct.
And at that time, we included information and language because all of the documents from PDE say 6 feet to the maximum extent feasible or to the greatest extent feasible. And we, at that time, we put the 3 to 4 feet language in there, and we reinforced that most recently, and that'll be in the Touch Base Tuesday tomorrow.
Right, Ms. Ionity.
The vote in October was for kindergarten and special ed, am I correct? We didn't vote to go back in person. I think Mark had said it right. The other plan that made us all virtual expired November 6th. The vote in October was for special ed and kindergarten.
Let me pull up the actual language here.
While you're doing that, I'll just add, I want to clarify that my question, I'm not questioning whether we needed a vote. I agree that we did not. In fact, I think what we've been doing here is effectively continuing the plan that we implemented in July. No substantive changes were needed to the health and safety plan. And it's not a new, there's nothing new from the board's point of view. This is a continuation of decisions made earlier. So I just want to clarify that I'm not concerned that we need a vote here. I just wanted to try to answer the community's questions.
The vote in October had 3 parts. Resume the option for in-person instruction for grades 1 to 2, effective the 4th of November, and 3 to 5 on November 9th. Resume the option of in-person instruction for grades 6 through 8 on November 9th, and resume the option for in-person instruction for grades 9 through 12 on November 9th.
Ms. Ionity, is your hand still up? Do you have another question or no?
Nope, I think that answered it.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments, questions from the board? Not seeing any hands raised. All right, well, thank you. Dr. Yanni, is there anything else you feel you need to clarify at this time?
No, just that we hope everyone has a great spring break. There will be a Touch Base Tuesday tomorrow. This Friday will be the last edition of the follow-up Friday, but we are planning on keeping the Touch Base Tuesdays through the end of this school year. And we hope everyone has a great spring break and stay safe during spring break as well.
Yeah, can I have a great spring break, but not too great? Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
We want everyone to make sure they're continuing to think about the fact that we want all of our kids back in school and we all have to do our part. So,
and also, Dr. Davis, just so that everyone knows, there's information coming out about what vaccinated people can do. Despite the change in those or the change in that information, we are still mandating that folks remain masked, remain distanced, all those things. Our workplace rules are going to continue in the best interest of the health and safety of everyone in our schools.
all right, thank you. For upcoming meetings, we have Our Education Committee meeting coming up on Wednesday, April 7th at 6 p.m., followed by the Policy Committee meeting no later, hopefully, than 7:15, but immediately following the Education Committee meeting. Our Finance Committee meeting will be held on Thursday, April 22nd at 6 p.m. And then our legislative meeting will be held Monday, April 26th at 7:00 p.m. We do appreciate everyone that was able to join us this evening, and we certainly welcome your participation in all the meetings that we will have during the month of April. Again, we wish everyone a very safe spring break, and we look forward to seeing everyone in April. It is currently 7:52. The Board of School Directors Legislative meeting is now adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.